Well, good morning, everyone. This is Michael DeVille coming to you from beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. Tatum and I are doing another Creating Real Estate Wealth webinar for West USA. West USA wants to build you a real estate money machine that's going to give you income for you and your spouse and your kids and your grandkids, if not for decades, maybe generations. And we're right here in Maricopa County. And Maricopa County happens to be one of the top markets in the United States, which makes it probably one of the top markets in the world. How lucky can you be for that? And today we're going to talk about how to accumulate a portfolio. So, this is one of my favorite topics. If you have a question, Tatum is monitoring it. If you look in the top right-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see a place that you can put a question in. If we get a chance, we'll certainly answer those questions. Oftentimes, we get questions that come in during the week, and we'll answer those questions on Saturday's podcast. And if you just go to the internet and type in West USA Realty Podcast, you'll get a couple of different options with which to listen to the podcast, and we'll answer a lot of questions and recap what we've seen during the week as well. Last Wednesday, we had Dr. Lawrence Yun from the Washington Realtors. We had the Board of Realtors. He's the top chief economist. He had great things to say about Arizona, and we talked about trends. So let me just go over next week. What we're going to be talking about is our universe of homes, because we're going to decide when we purchase properties. We're going to talk about how we locate these properties. And that's kind of what we're talking about today, because today we're going to talk about a strategy for accumulating properties and how to select the portfolio. Now, keep in mind, when we buy a property, this is a pretty long-term strategy. So when we buy a property, we probably won't sell that property for 5 years, 10 years. And I have properties I've owned for 30 years because they keep appreciating and they keep cash flowing. And I have to ask myself sometimes, why do I want to sell this when it's doing so terribly well? So where you accumulate them and how you select that portfolio becomes very, very important. Now, last week, we talked about trends. We talked about how Arizona's got 3 or 4 trends. We talked about this on the conference when we had the National Association of Realtors. Dr. Young was there. We talked about trends. We talked about how we've got a trend from California. We've got a trend from baby boomers moving in. You know, as this recession has unfolded, people have decided they're going to quit working and retire. We've had an awful lot of retirees moving to Arizona. That's a trend that's been in place for really for about 30 or 40 years and continue will. As the baby boomers retire, we're going to get more and more of them. So that's a huge trend. We also have this trend of high tax state to low tax state. So we have 3 really nice trends. And this trend is for Arizona and Phoenix in general. But what you don't realize is that we have a trend right here in town as well. And if we can get our product placement and our property and investment placement right in the path of those trends, we can really enhance the returns that we get. Not only will we get more rent, but we're going to make more appreciation. Because this goes back to where we were in that every house will rent, but not every house is a good rental. And we've been going over why we want to decide what's a good rental. So we've gone through the calculations to let you know that when you look at the calculations, what makes a good rental. And now we're going to talk about the placement of these properties as to where we want to place these properties so that they too are in really good rentals, because we want these to grow and grow and grow, and we want the rent to increase. We want the value of the property to go up, and if we want to make more and more income, that's our jobs, and that's what we do for ourselves. And this is just a great way for you to make yourself a really, really good investment portfolio for yourself. So a couple rules we're going to talk about today. What does lineal progression have to do with residential rental investing? Why is it important to pay attention to future economic planning and development announcement? Wow, can you do well if you just pay attention to that? Wow, 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 wow. And how does acquiring rental property in the path of vector growth benefit the investor? And we're going to talk about that. So let's move on to rule number one. What does lineal progression have to do with residential renting? If you can just think in your mind, we are a very, very transportation dependent society. Everybody has a car, everybody gets around, we want to know where things are at. And as we add freeways and paths of commuting time, that opens up more and more area for ourselves. And as we get commuting, when you're on the expressways, it's a lot faster than going on surface streets. So it's not necessarily distance that people are traveling, but time that they're traveling. Most people have time to work, not distance to work. So as we open up more and more freeways, we open up more and more areas, and population will move to that. Now, one of the trends that we've talked about is population move. And I want you to think of this. If you drop a pebble into a pool of water, you can see the wave go out. And that's called a vector wave. So you're going to see that population vectors out from the center of the city out to the outlying areas. A couple reasons for that is because that's where the new homes are at. The new homes are obviously always at the edge of the city where the land is available. And if you want a new home, that's where you have to go. As we open up freeways, we open up building, we open up development, and that's where you want to start thinking that that's where we want to go. So new freeways promote commercial development. Just by paying attention, you can see where the growth of the city is going. And of course, we are so blessed here in Phoenix with all the different locations that are going. Not only do we have great trends in place, but we've got lots of organic growth. So if we do the proper investment placement, we're going to get not only the growth of the whole area, we're going to get specific growth by placing our properties in very, very good locations when we start thinking what the amenity packages are. So obviously, if you can buy a property that's going to be right in the path of growth, that's going to have restaurants and theaters and supermarkets and hospitals and schools and colleges put in place, that makes for a very desirable place to live. But it also needs to have transportation. So oftentimes, if you just follow the transportation hubs, you're going to do very, very well. So let's just talk about some of the opportunities that we have here in Phoenix. We're just loaded with this. If you just think of the Loop 101 and Loop 102. Look what goes on when you're just going to the airport. Just look to the south of the freeway. When you look across Tempe Lake, look at the development that's going on there just north of ASU. You've got Tempe Marketplace. You've got the Rio Salado project. You've got skyscrapers with office buildings. What a great location. We've got the Westgate where we've got the ice rink and the football arena. You've got the 101 Glendale. You've got the 202 Gilbert area with commercial. Just think, we just opened up the 202 into the Southeast Valley, and that is exploding with all kinds of commercial. It's exploding with all kinds of population, and that's where we had a lot of vacant properties. And builders are now able to get out there, and population is moving out there. Just look at what's going on. This gives you a tremendous opportunity to buy in these properties and wait. So let's talk about the next one. Why is it important to pay attention to future economic planning and development? We are here in Arizona. We've been talking, let me just give you a couple examples. We have been talking about the fact we have Luke Air Force Base. Luke Air Force Base has been the training center for the F-16 fighter jet. Well, in 2018, they talked about the fact that the F-35, the new generation of incredibly technologically advanced fighter, is going to be, they're going to bring in the fighter wing to Luke Air Force Base for training. That was 2018. Well, we've known about that for 2 years. You've had 2 years with which to start to position for them coming in, and now they've announced that the wing is actually coming in. They're bringing in 2,700 families for more airmen, but the big bonus is going to be the fact that there is a lot of technological support, and there's probably another 4, 5, or 6,000 families coming in that are civilians that are going to be supporting the F-35, plus all of the technological companies that are going to be there to do business with the Air Force. So billions and billions and billions of dollars is going into the Luke Air Force area. And there's a theme there, 15 minutes to Luke Air Force Base. What a great place. Had you been paying attention for the last 2 or 3 years, you could have started to position some properties there for a very, very long-term hold. That's just going to be great. Think of what's going on at the 303 truck bypass. Look at as they open up and they finally have completed that. We are going to have all kinds of distribution warehouses. When the distribution warehouses come in, jobs come in, people want places to live. What a great place for you to start positioning some of your investments for a long-term hold. The new builders are going to start going out. You're going to see apartment complexes and multifamily complexes, and all these are part of the growth corridors that you can get involved with. Think of the 202 that's coming in. Look at all the tech buildings that are going up out there. And let's talk about the 101 in Scottsdale. That was the largest section of unimproved freeway in a major urban area in the country, and it's developing like crazy. There's going to be 50,000 jobs there. Anywhere along that corridor is going to be a fabulous place for you to consider purchasing a rental for a very, very long-term hold. And we are just loaded with them. Think of going in through the 10. Look at all of the construction that you have out there. We have future amenities, the entertainment's coming in, and it's just paying attention. If you're in Scottsdale, if you listen that the Mayo Clinic was becoming a teaching hospital, that means that not only are they bringing in students, but there's going to be support staff. There's going to be lots of companies that are going to be supporting this, and it's going to bring jobs, and more jobs, and people are going to need places to live. So paying attention. I'll tell you a personal story. I was purchasing a property in a very, very rundown condo project. I called the HOA. They told me they had just received an award from an insurance settlement, and they were going to improve the entire complex, and they had the money for it. So there was information that I knew that this rundown complex within 6 months to a year and a half was going to be a very nice complex because they had lots of money to do that. That's just paying attention to what's going on and taking care of all the opportunities that have come to you. We're just loaded with opportunities. We have Taiwan Semiconductor coming in. Just think of Grand Canyon University. We knew they were coming in. We knew they were going to have a great campus. You could have bought properties. They're still coming there. It gives you what a great opportunity. Zoom Corporate is coming in. You've got the Tempe Riverwalk complex. We have Nationwide Insurance in Scottsdale. All these guys are bringing in jobs, and everyone needs a place to live. And we're in that business to provide housing for people to live. So how do you acquire rental properties in the path of a vector growth benefit? Well, developing properties, we've talked about that. We can only buy a property a year. We're looking to really buy 1 or 2. So when we place these properties, we want to be fairly careful with where we are. We want to get the biggest bang for the buck we possibly can. And of course, not only for yourself, but for your clients. So developing communities on the fringe, you typically get in a much lower price because they're at the fringe and the amenities are developing. Whenever the builders are at the fringe, you know that growth is following. So if you bought a property in a communities and you started to see restaurants and supermarkets and schools come in, you know that that growth corridor is expanding and it's a great place. There's several here in the valley. I'm going to tell you, anywhere along the 303 or the 202 are just going to be fabulous places for you to purchase. Temporary limited infrastructure, when you start talking about schools and police, amenities all coming in, quality of life improves, and you're at the fringe of the properties. And this is just a great place for you to invest. Now, let's talk about that. When you buy a lesser priced property that's going to grow, what happens is you get more return on your money. Obviously, the lower the price, the greater the return. If you're willing to wait a little bit, we know that the growth is going to come to these properties. And we want to buy these properties for 10 years, 20 years, sometimes maybe 30 years. We want that same tenant to pay these properties off for us. So we want to get in front of the trend. So let me just recap this. Arizona has tremendous growth trends that are decades long. Phoenix is the greatest recipient of these. So Maricopa County is going to do exceptionally well. Our population is going to really probably go up another 1 million people. We're putting in freeways to handle the extra population. And those freeways are growth corridors, very similar to a pebble being dropped into a center, and they're moving out. That moving out to the fringe gives you an opportunity to buy at a lower price and to wait for development to come to you on a long-term hold. So you have a national trend, then you have a local trend, and we want to take advantage of that local trend. And it's right here. We have probably 8 or 9 growth corridors. You are always welcome to call to the corporate office. I'd be more than happy to sit down with you if you want to brainstorm. We can go over this. So let's just keep in mind that we've done the calculations so that you can look at the properties, decide if this is a good property. We've talked about the benchmark here in Arizona. If the property is at benchmark or better, that means that we have a pretty good buy. And now we're talking about growth corridors so that you can do product placement and you can do placement for purchasing properties for a very long-term hold. This is a great way for you to make future income for yourself. And of course, if you position yourself properly, you're going to get excellent appreciation. So next week, we're going to talk about the universe of homes. And the universe of homes is homes that we've already done business with that work really, really well. Because we keep saying this over and over again. Every house will rent, but not every house is a great rental. And we have strategies. If we sit down and if we do the vector research and we do the momentum research, we know where the great growth paths are. And this is just going to help you decide where to go. So we've got plenty of strategies for you. If you'd like to get involved with us, you're welcome to email us at creatingwealth@westusa.com. If you have any questions, you're welcome to send it to creatingwealth@westusa.com. If you want to reach me, I'm here at the corporate office, 602-942-4200. If you think you need to talk with me, you can email me at michael@michaeldeville.com. And we'll go over some things Saturday's podcast. So if you have any questions, if I can help in any way, we're here to help you get a very, very good life, to build income and reserves for yourself, get out of debt, and have an absolutely incredible life. My very, very best to you. Bye-bye now.